Thanks for joining. I'm Will Osborne with Madison Trust. I'm an account executive.
I'm Ian Robertson, and I'm excited to sort of dive into what we've got here today. You want to kick us off with some
Yeah,
basics?
sure. Okay. So, as Melody mentioned, we are talking about custodial self-directed IRAs today. So IRAs or self-directed IRAs for children and teens. So that's possible. So let's just start off with what is a self-directed IRA? So simply put, it's an IRA that lets you invest in alternatives. So anything other than what you might be used to on the stock market. So real estate, private placements, precious metals, etc. The unconventional investments we can more than likely hold. We have a ton of other webinars that go over what you can invest in, and real estate. We have a ton of stuff on that too. So dive into that when you have a chance. And the main benefit with this type of account, diversification, of course, the fact that you're getting into assets that aren't normally available on other platforms. To name any big bank or big brokerage firm. Yeah, diversification, potential for higher returns. All the same tax advantages apply here, and that's important. So it's a self-directed IRA. Nothing fancy about that other than the fact that you have different investment options. All the same IRS rules and regulations apply. Not sure if there's anything else you want to add there, but I think that
That
pretty much
about
covers
covers
it.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And so the great thing here that we're going to be talking about today is specifically for custodial self-directed IRAs. So for children or grandchildren, setting up an account for them to be able to start their retirement savings as early as they possibly can.
Seriously, it just as soon as they're born, I suppose.
Yeah, so as soon as as soon as you can start justifying some income for them, you're
That's true. Yeah,
you're
we'll get
off and
into that a
running.
little bit later. So maybe jumping a little ahead of myself, but um,
But yeah, I guess
yeah,
like just to clarify here, this there are some differences between your standard self-directed IRA and a custodial self-directed IRA, primarily that this is being managed specifically by the parent or grandparent, and so there's the account holder is not in control here. The
right,
account holder is the child, but they're a minor, and so therefore they don't have the rights to manage the account themselves.
right. They're the manager or it's called the custodial account because the parent or guardian is the custodian, just like Madison is. We're using the term, in a similar fashion both ways. We're holding the IRA, we're overseeing it. The parent also acts in a custodial sort of role, making all the investment decisions on behalf of the child or teen in their IRA. So yeah, I mean, it's really as simple as that. And when it comes to setting up the custodial IRA, it's the same application process with us, at least in terms of getting started. It's done online. We do need to see a birth certificate for the child, an account representative form, or excuse me, yeah, account representative form for the parent or guardian, so that we know that they are able to oversee the account. That's going to be notarized as well. And we'll need a passport for the child as well. And if that's not available, the parent's ID will suffice. So just a quick overview of what we can or what you should expect if this is something you plan on doing for your
Right.
children
And
or
also
grandchildren.
when you're first starting, you're choosing between a traditional IRA or a Roth IRA. And so that's really even before you go through the application, because that's the very first question within the application is what type of account are you establishing? And so that's a big factor to consider on the front end. We certainly can't give any legal investment or tax advice, but most of the time we see these custodial accounts being established as Roth IRAs because the benefit that you get from deferring taxes in a traditional IRA doesn't really come into play with minors. Like they're not having these big tax burdens while they're a minor, and so
Exactly.
just being able to funnel as much money into a Roth IRA to grow completely tax free into the future for literally decades and decades until they're of retirement age is just something that you can't really take advantage of the same way any other point in your lifetime.
I know. Yeah. Getting started early, taking advantage of the power of compounding, just starting these great saving habits early in life. I mean, it's exciting. The thought of, if I were a kid and someone did this for me, this would be super exciting just to know I had some money
Oh
in an
yeah.
IRA. I'm so young, this can grow so much. It's exciting stuff. So I could definitely see how this could, I mean, it's just fantastic stuff that this is allowed. I mean, and you
Yeah.
touched on this before, you do need or the child or teen does need some sort of earned income, you don't need to be legal working age necessarily
Right.
to have earned income. I mean, a child could, mow lawns for neighbors or anyone in, locally, or have a lemonade stand, walk dogs. So if there is proof of earned income via a 1099 or W-2 of some sort, I guess in this case it'd be 1099 income. But anyway, if they have earned income in that capacity, then they can make a contribution up to that amount, as long as it doesn't go past $7,000. And another cool thing, I don't know if you can touch on this, but the fact that pretty much anyone can contribute to that account.
Yeah, it's true. And just to back up on the income qualification, like we're not vetting the qualification of the child's income.
Right.
And so that's something important for you to look at with your accountant. But we've seen people get pretty creative at pretty young ages. If you own a business, like that's probably the most common way that I've seen people take advantage of these types of custodial IRAs. Is you run a business, you have a lot of flexibility in who's on your payroll and what they may be doing for your business. Like,
good point.
Yeah, so there's a lot of different uniqueness there, things to think about, but certainly running it past your accountant to verify that this income is valid, it's considered earned, and they will qualify for you to be able to make contributions into their retirement accounts.
Right. And, the child, they can use that earned income and contribute it to the IRA themselves, or the parent, guardian, or really anyone else, frankly, can contribute up to that limit or to the 7K limit, whichever is lowest or lower rather.
Right. So yeah, like if in an example, if your child has a summer job where he's mowing lawns and he makes $1,000 over the summer, that's all he has for the year for income, you can contribute up to $1,000 into the custodial IRA because that was his limit on the income. But if he would have made $7,000 for that summer, you could max out on a $7,000 contribution. That's going to be the max. You're not going to be able to go above and beyond that. But it's going to be based on income or the contribution limit, which
it's like a 401k matching in a sense.
Yeah. Yeah, right.
Or, with that 7,000 example, maybe the child puts in, 3,500 of their own money and then the parent matches completely. So, I mean, there's creative ways of going about this, but, if the child or the parents don't want them to have to put all the earned money into the IRA and not be able to use it, I mean, I would love to have, keep that money for myself,
Yeah, of course.
Then they don't have to. So the parent can cover it, or really anyone else, friends, other relatives, doesn't really matter, I guess, from the perspective of the IRS. And there are other savings plans that have tax advantages for minors, like 529 plans, which are used specifically for education expenses. Later on, when a child's older, they can roll some of those funds over to a Roth IRA because 529 plans are post-tax, just like Roths. So that's why that rule is there. And it kind of goes back to the fact that, with such low earned income, generally speaking, for minors, you're not going to get a tax benefit from doing a traditional IRA and getting a deduction there. So it's typically always Roth, and that's kind of exemplified through the 529, how it's post-tax by default.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And what kind of investments, because usually we're talking about smaller amounts here. So in your experience, what kind of investments do you see people pursuing with smaller accounts, just in self-directed IRAs? Because, if you're starting with less, maybe you have to be a little bit more creative, right?
Exactly. So there are some investment opportunities that have investment minimums, of course. And, if the minimum allows, you can invest into a real estate fund of some sort, or really any crowdfunding opportunity. A private placement, for example, might take a little bit to save up, or maybe you get into, like, it's 2025 right now. And again, we're not giving advice here. This is all hypothetical, but maybe you can make a contribution for 2024 before the April 15th deadline, also make a contribution for 2025. And now you have up to 14,000 in IRA already. Again, all hypothetical, but that's a good amount of money to put towards investment. So you don't have to start with that necessarily 7,000 and just wait a full year to contribute the next 7,000. I know timing, works out well in my example, but yeah, any opportunities you can think of, getting into crypto, maybe getting into precious metals. With precious metals, we have a platform sort of built in to our interface, Fidelitrade with the Delaware Depository. So that's an easier sort of asset type to get into simply because of that relationship we have with them. But yeah, I mean, nothing's stopping a child from maybe getting into, we talk about IRA LLCs, maybe their IRA is a member of a multi-member LLC and is involved or invests alongside other family members' IRAs in the same LLC so that they're getting or taking advantage of those returns that are being generated.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Literally pairing up with your child. So using your own self-directed IRA, your child having a custodial self-directed IRA, and lumping those funds together into a multi-member LLC to make investments. And so really it's probably mostly your money that you're using from your IRA to fuel the deals, but now your child is able to participate and take advantage of the returns that you're generating from your investments as well. And so not to dive too deep into checkbook control, but like we have a lot of resources on our website. We have other webinars that we've gone over the checkbook control models, the IRA LLCs. So I would definitely encourage you to take a look at that as well, because that's going to be a big factor here in a lot of cases for minors.
Yeah, and also comes into play if you're trying to meet a minimum investment threshold. If the LLC can get to that 50K or 100K with a child and parents and other family members or friends involved, that's fantastic. Just of course reach out to the investment you are interested in to make sure that they'll accept an LLC or other entity type as an investor. But I see that fairly commonly.
Yeah, or even having multiple children, like you have multiple children. Like,
yeah,
okay, we're starting at the same time. Here's everybody's money. We're putting it in, and we're going to do it each year and continue to fuel that LLC.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways to get creative here, like I said before, and so it's really just about figuring out what makes sense for you and finding a path forward.
Exactly. And I touched on some of this briefly when it comes to setting up the custodial IRA with Madison. I have it all listed out in front of me now, so I can give a more in-depth rundown. So you're going through the account application fully online. How long would you say the account application takes?
I would say 10, 15 minutes on average.
It's pretty quick, pretty easy, at least in my opinion. As I mentioned, you're going through the account application first, of course. Once that's done, our onboarding team will see that it's someone who's under 18 or 21. And going back to the definition of a minor, depends on the state. It could be 18, it could be 21, but in our system, we'll account for that when they do hit the age of majority. But anyway, we'll ask, once that application is submitted, we'll ask for a copy of the minor's birth certificate. We'll need a representative authorization form. It needs to be notarized, and it's for one of the legal guardians so that they can act on behalf of the IRA, and a copy of the minor's passport. And if they don't have one, I know that a lot probably don't, we'll accept a copy of the parent's photo ID. And it's pretty straightforward from there. When the client, or excuse me, well, I guess, the client who happens to be a minor eventually hits the age of majority, we will reach out automatically. We need an account information verification form that the child will fill out, and it will be notarized as well, because we don't have a lot of information to work with in terms of a background check, just because they're so young. So we do need that form notarized and sent back to us. We'll activate the account. Any representatives on the account will be automatically removed unless the client, who is now the let's say 18, 21-year-old, unless they want the parent on or guardian on file as a rep, we'll gladly keep them on. Otherwise, we'll automatically remove them. So it's a pretty simple process to normalize things once the client is 18 or 21. So yeah, it's a straightforward process. It's definitely possible to do this. And I don't know, Ian, why would someone come on board with Madison versus the competition?
Yeah, I mean, the big thing is knowledge and understanding. We had a conversation with somebody just before hopping in here for this webinar. They are switching over to us because they're with a provider right now that just is not well versed. Their support staff the salespeople are great, and they can convince somebody to sign up, and then they get in the doors, and it's a completely different experience. Nobody knows what they're talking about, or nobody's responsive. There's a lot of different issues out there. So we focus on a couple of things primarily here. One is accessibility. So you have a question, you need help with something, you need something done, something processed. We're going to do it in a timely fashion. We're going to respond to you and be able to talk to you in real time. Give us a call and we'll answer the phones during business hours. And then beyond that, we're well versed. We have a very well trained staff in all the different departments that we have here at Madison Trust Company. So whoever you're talking to, they're going to be well versed and able to answer a lot of your questions. Sometimes you're going to ask questions that are tax, investment, or legal advice, and we're going to, maybe we'll be able to educate you to a degree, but at the end of the day, those questions, we cannot answer those questions. Those are best suited for your accountant or your attorney. So keep that in mind in the process. But everything else, I mean, we're here to answer your questions. We're here to service you. And then beyond that, it would be our fee schedule. So we're charging flat rate fees. We're not charging based on the value as it goes up over the years. We're not increasing that fee over time. It's just going to stay the same throughout, and that's definitely different from a lot of our competitors as well.
Exactly. Yeah, sliding scale, which could work for some people, but for the most part, flat fees are the way to go.
At some point, yes, it's,
Yeah.
you need to be flat.
Yeah,
but
exactly. Thank you so much for joining. Once again, it's a pleasure to do these webinars, get in front of a lot of people and talk about a topic specific to self-directed IRAs. So thanks again.
Yeah, and any questions that you guys have, give us a call, send us an email. We're happy to talk, answer any other questions that you may have, maybe on a more specific basis, or if you're looking to get started and want to refine some of the details, we're happy to chat.